Now you can do it. Perfect. Okay, so I'm Emma, by the way.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I'm the one who found Spinster Haven and kind of got the project running, and so I'm really excited that you're here, and we're grateful that you're here to share your experiences. To start off, do you just want to introduce yourself with your name and your age, and any other identifiers that you might think are important?
Well, my name is Linda Nelson, and I'm 74, soon to be 75, and been in Arkansas for, I don't know, about 50 years.
Nice. So what year did you come to Arkansas?
1973.
Nice.
So I came up here in 1974. So I've been in Fayetteville.
That's amazing. Are there any other identifiers that you feel are important? This could be anything ranging from sexual identity to religion or anything like that.
Well, I'm a lesbian, but wasn't always a lesbian. I had 2 children before I came out. In 1994 I came out, but I hung around the lesbian community for many, many years before then. People like and let's see. That's about.
Perfect, thank you. So kind of getting into, I mean, this is a huge question, so
Okay.
start wherever you want to. But what's your experience with activist organizations?
Well, I've been active since 1960s, against the Vietnam War and for civil rights and all that when I lived in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And when I came down here, I was shocked with Arkansas because we were kind of behind the times.
Yeah.
And then later I got involved. I was president of NOW for 91 to 92 to 94, something like that. Or the local NOW chapter.
Right.
And I've been involved in some peace. Early in the 70s, I involved some peace activist groups here in Fayetteville, but I can't remember any of the details from that. And over the years I've been involved in, besides now, of course, Spinster Haven took up a lot of my time. I was 14 years
That's
involved in
amazing.
Spinster Haven.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of going off of that, when did you join Spinster Haven? Like during the creation of it? Did you help create it?
No, I came in 1994 when they had a goddess festival at their land. Right after they bought the land, they had a goddess festival, and I was really interested in the goddess religions, so I go, well, I'm going there. And sure enough, they grabbed me right away and said, come on to our meetings. And I was very, I lived in town, so I wanted a place to go in the country, so I thought that was really neat that they had a place in the country at that time, so
Yeah.
I got involved.
That's amazing. Were you a part of any other Back to the Land movements?
No, I wasn't. I had a lot of friends. I always wanted to go back to land, but I had a lot of friends that were back to land, but never could afford to go back to land. I had 2 kids. I had to work. And I had to live in town until they graduated. Then I moved to my country.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess what did your activism, whether it be protesting the Vietnam War or your involvement in the women's communities, what did that experience mean to you? And it can be, you can answer differently for the different experiences.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it was all about rights of African Americans, rights of women, rights of trees. Rights. Yeah, I was arrested for, trying to save 300-year-old trees. So it's all about, abortion rights. And,
Yeah.
I mean, at one time I went to Mississippi in 1991, and it was a kind of exciting time because, well, it wasn't exciting because we were guarding abortions. Anyway, we were there, and they came, the anti-people came in and pushed us against the building. I mean, of course they got arrested, but meanwhile, and I got a scar on my forehead, but I was so proud of that scar. I was so proud!
That would be too, for sure.
I was so proud that they got arrested right away, but they had to show that they were willing to try to break the building down.
Wow.
So
That sounds like a really moving experience.
And the nice part was my daughter was involved too. She was 19 at the time. So
Wow.
She came from New Orleans and I came from up here.
Did you say what year that was?
What?
Do you remember what year that was?
That was 19 let's see. Either 1992 or 1993. Yeah.
That's amazing. If you're comfortable, do you want to tell us about the time you got arrested?
Oh yeah, well, okay. Well, I mean, I got arrested Coles had wanted to build a spot out west side, north side, north side of town by the mall, and they had 300-year-old trees. And the city had an ordinance that if you had every land that was sold, 10% had to go to stay in the trees. Well, here's what they did was that 10% was supposed to be the land that was dedicated for trees. Well, but what they did when they resold something, they would cheat and they'd go, well, only 10% of that. So they kept whittling down. So they had sold this land to Coles, and Coles was going to cut down 300-year-old mother trees and a whole bunch of this. Some people stayed in the trees themselves. I just trespassed with a bunch of grandmothers, at that time.
That's an admirable cause for sure. That sounds.
And so we all got arrested, and they all had to. And I know I sat there, and they put the cuffs on us, but they put it on so loose that I could have got free. But anyway.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
That's a long time.
Such an interesting experience. Something you probably don't forget, right?
No, I didn't. Well, here's the neat part about it. A whole bunch of that people I knew are all liberal, and when we were in the jail, we were all singing all these women's songs, and we were all like, and they go, we've never heard people singing this much when being arrested.
That's amazing.
So that was
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So we've heard from a lot of people from the Back to the Land movement, and a big topic that's come up is separatism. So we've asked everyone, what does separatism mean to you, and do you identify yourself as a separatist, or have you ever?
Well, a separatist right now means, no men allowed on women's land. Yeah, definitely I would be a separatist. But as far as being with men, and I mean, right now, we used to do our own work. Now we have to call on all men to do this work for us because we don't have the energy or the time, or we don't have the strength anymore. But we used to always not even have women on the land. But now anybody we generally bring is a man on the land. So separatist really is I don't want to live with one. I don't want to be with one.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So this one's also pretty broad, but what was the social or the political climate of Arkansas? And you kind of have a unique point of view from this because you said you came from Minneapolis. Right. So how did it, was it shocking to you? How did it differ, especially towards women and the queer community? Yeah.
Well, in Minneapolis, it's pretty open. You know where the gay restaurants were. I wasn't into bars too much. And, they had food co-ops and bicycle co-ops and everything, and Native American rights and everything. I came to Arkansas, and religious rights, and came to Arkansas. It was like stepping back in time 20 years. That's how I felt. I felt like I was stepping back in time 20 years. Yeah. It was a shock.
Wow.
Shock. So I've been fighting all. We haven't got very far.
I know, unfortunately. But I think from what we've heard, Fayetteville is kind of like a little haven within Arkansas.
Yes, and that's why I moved here. I said I've got to move to Fayetteville. I came to Arkansas. I said I've got to move to Fayetteville because that's the place. And Little Rock's pretty that way too, but not as much.
Well, we've really enjoyed our time here. I used to live in Arkansas when I was really young, so I don't remember it very much, but I do remember it being very conservative.
Yes.
And I never got to visit Fayetteville or Little Rock, and so it's really refreshing to come back and to know that there's a space like this here, because I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, and there's thousands of lesbians. I mean,
yeah.
It's just on my list.
Yeah.
I know.
It's really empowering that even in such a red state, there's like a place. There's a place for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So this is also a big one. They're all big ones.
Okay.
I think this is the one that a lot of people struggle with. But what is the most, or at least an influential experience or memory that you have from your activism that you would like to share?
Gosh, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
The most. I mean, can't think. I mean, what's most memorable? Because most of the time you just didn't, you know, if something came up, you win.
Yeah.
You win, no matter what. It was and a lot of times they organized. When I was the president, I would organize the on the road anniversary rovers. The way we'd organize. I'd organize the marches or the talks or the. I mean, and I was pretty shy, so I didn't have too many press conferences. I only had one press conference. And the one thing I do remember was I talked at that press conference about, I don't know what and the CEO of where I worked, he said, "You said it perfectly. You said exactly what it was to say, you know, and it was about women's rights and abortion rights and all that." And I was like totally shocked. I mean, he was pretty very liberal, thank goodness.
Yeah.
My whole organization was very liberal. And also, all the organizations I worked for, since I decided not to work in corporate America, were very liberal and always very supportive of.
That's amazing.
Very supportive of what I did, and never questioned, and always he was very open about.
That's amazing.
What I could say. So.
Well, it's really refreshing to hear that you well, I guess maybe that's not the word, but you know, right now is a hard time politically, and especially when it comes to abortion rights. So I guess as someone who sort of originally fought for those rights, is there any advice that you would give to us who are trying to take up that fight and hopefully make some difference, bring back the change, you know?
Yeah, bring back the change. Well, I mean, we always did something every year, no matter what. We're doing some march, and I notice they're not doing that again. And for a few years, we didn't feel we had to do much. It's only when it gets bad, you know, you have to do that. Oh, I know one thing I did that I was kind of proud of.
Oh, that's right.
I infiltrated the anti-abortion group. I put on my polyester and put on my little makeup on and on my hair, and went in there to see how organized they were. They in Fayetteville, they were not organized at all. They were a bunch of guys that were pretty strange, and they didn't catch on because I didn't say much. It was pretty strange situation. And of course, the other thing, my daughter, when she got old enough, we'd go together. She'd be down in New Orleans, and we'd go together to marches, and she would actually talk to the people. And she would get them to agree at all her points. They agreed to her points.
Wow.
They just couldn't, they were just so brainwashed they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But she said, yeah, when we talked about this, they all agreed that this was the right, but they couldn't put two and two together and equal four.
I think that's a common thread too throughout history. Like we notice that now too.
Yeah.
When you talk to someone one-on-one, it's like, it's all there.
Yeah,
you know?
They all agree that this is a right that they want to have.
It's just like all the rhetoric is so ingrained.
Well, yeah, they've been brainwashed. I mean, first they probably think we have, but
true.
But it's all brainwashed. Well, at that time they all had the same signs. They all had the same signs. They all had the same. We had to.
So. How do you feel the movement, especially the women's movement, has evolved over time?
Well, I know from now the aspect, you know, we've been much more they were much more inclusive. I mean, they were so anti anything but women because they were so afraid of lesbians and all of a sudden, but now it's lesbians and trans, and they really involved there. And so I think other things too, we've let other people in, but there's still a group of people that are anti-trans, and they are lesbians. They're very anti-trans because they're afraid that it might not be natural, or they're afraid that it might influence somebody, including them. But I'm one of these people that think there's a continuum, totally continuum, and it's not about. And also whether gay, lesbian, trans, or whatever, there's so many variables, and a lot of them are biological variables. There's so many biological. It's not like two biological variables. There's probably hundreds we don't know about.
Yeah.
And I'm always one that believe that. I'm always fascinated about inheritance, because people that are twins raised separate are so alike, and so I'm thinking there's so many biological things that were inherited that we don't know.
Yeah.
So, but not everybody's my opinion again. So that's
Yeah, for sure.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that at times it hasn't felt like protesting is necessary. Like, you stop protesting,
Right.
Do you feel like these communities sort of come together stronger at times of oppression, at times of political attacks, unrest? Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, the recent women's marches, people really came together. I mean, thousands and thousands of people. Unfortunately, here's the big problem: when you get my age, you don't feel like going to these marches again. You go because you're too tired.
Yeah.
It's too hot.
Yeah, that's totally understandable too.
Too hot. It's too tired. It's like, oh gosh, it won't do any good. So find another way.
Yeah. Are you optimistic about the future?
Oh yeah. I mean, my thing now is we can get people to vote. If I knew a way to, if I could do research and figure out how to get those people to vote that are voting, because they aren't optimistic.
Well, that's good to hear, because a lot of people are optimistic and a lot of people aren't. So there's a big spectrum there, but it's good to hear as a young person that there's hope.
I mean, I already seen change. Oh my goodness, I've seen so many changes back in the 70s. When you couldn't apply for in the 60s. In the 60s when I first started working, you had to the ads were you had to be a male apply for this job or female apply for this job, and so if I applied for a job, showed up. I mean, I was allowed to apply for the job, but I showed up. They go, oh, this job's not here. I go, what do you mean the job's not here? Let's see. And then they would ask you all kinds of questions if you're a female. And then they paid three times as much and had me train people. And it was just awful. And I was the top when I graduated at one point. I was the top of my class, but all the men got jobs. And I was shocked, totally shocked. I was just so shocked. And so I only worked in the corporate world for like 2 years and said I'll never, ever go back again. So in '69, I said no, only would work for nonprofits. So
that's amazing. What were some of the nonprofits you worked for?
Well, I worked for a mental health center for 22 years, and I worked for the state for 5. Those are the main ones. But I did work for some others.
What did you do for the state?
I was in their division of behavioral health services. I was research. I did research for mental health outcomes, trying to find out if kids are improving or not.
Did you find out?
Well, we did. We did a pretty good job. It was a special project that the governor's wife at that time endorsed, and we did as long as we were using the techniques we used. But this minute that another governor took over, they axed that program. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know, that's how it is. It's
well, that's all of my written questions, but I want to open up the floor. Anything else you want to share? Anything about anything, Spinster Haven, your other activism, something funny, something.
I don't know, funny. Well, I guess it should be funny that we bought that. the land we bought, I don't know if you heard about how they bought that land, but then they had this little rock house that was right next to the land. And this little guy, he was probably in his 70s, and he was very paranoid. He didn't have a phone or anything. He was very paranoid, but he kind of needed the money. So I said, "Where do you want to sell that rock house?" And he said, "Well, yeah, my son wants to sell it." I said, "Well, would you consider?" I didn't really know what Spinster Haven. Would you consider selling to me? He goes, "Well, I have to think about it." So every Sunday, he gardened and I had gardens. Every Sunday, I would go out there and talk about gardening, his potatoes or whatever he's gardening. And he's getting, more interested and willing to sell it to me. I mean, he wanted to sell it, but he wanted to make sure he had a good neighbor. So finally, a friend of mine said, I need to talk to you. And I said, "Well, I don't have any time because I work. I have to go out to talk to this guy about trying to buy some land on this Sunday. You can come with me." So I went out there and took her with me. And she got there and he said, "You're my daughter's favorite teacher." And they said, "You want to buy the land?" So I mean, it was just, so things like that happen quite a bit with me. And same way about this place, I just happened to drive by and go, "This is the place." I knew exactly the place. And it was. I mean, we paid we paid $122,000 for it. And now it's worth probably like close to $300,000.
Wow.
And we really haven't done that much.
That's
So,
amazing.
and that was only 6 years ago. Like 6, 7 years. 2000. Anyway, so.
Wow. That's amazing.
So anyway, so I don't know too much about my roles.
Does anybody else have anything? I think so. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming here.
And thank you for your activism too.
I've been with you.
Yes, so that's how I found.
Yes.
That's how I found Spinster Haven.
Well, you can have this, except the one that has me in there. This is one I wrote, so I want to keep that one. But
Of course. That's amazing. Can we take pictures of that one?
yeah.
Okay, I'll take pictures.
I
real
just
quick.
need that page actually.
That's amazing. So yeah, I think Maya mentioned, but so our grant is did Maya tell you about her land?
Yeah. And I
so-
didn't know about her. I mean, I've always heard about it, but I never
Right.
paid attention to it.
Right.
But, yeah.
So we got all of these materials from her land, and this is the team. Like we've been working on scanning them. Awesome. Should I take the front page off?
Yeah, just take that one page off. That
Yeah.
page. That. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so we have not very many, but a couple copies of those are feminist review.
Right.
And so that's how I found Spinster
Wow.
Haven. I was going through and reading, and I saw an ad. It said, "We found the land."
Oh wow! Yeah. They used to, one of the people involved with it, she was on the board for a while. She's now a male. She's trans. Karen Wiggins, that would be in there, and then several people were involved.
Yeah, so that's.
But we had some other really publications that I wasn't really, you've talked to Guthrie, I'm sure. Did she tell you about it?
We haven't talked to Guthrie. I believe we're gonna have a phone interview.
Oh wow, because she was very involved in writing things.
Yes, we have some of the Spinster Haven, a couple of the publications of those as well, and
Right.
I've seen Guthrie's name in them as well. So yeah, we're super excited, and thank you so much again.
Yeah. And I wrote a couple things to go to